Thank You, Omu by Oge Mora, winner of a Caldecott honor. How are you today, my friends? How are you today? There seems to be something in my throat, my friends. Oh, deep in my throat, I want to say, hope that you're okay today. Hi, we're back. It's Friday. Super happy to see you. And today we're reading Thank You, Omu, written by, and I really hope that I'm pronouncing Miss Mora's name correctly, Oge Mora. Absolutely beautiful book, and I will share with you in Igbo, the Nigerian language of her parents. Omu means queen, yet for Oge, growing up, it meant grandma. So her nickname for her grandma, she called her grandma Omu, which means queen in Igbo, which is just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. And also you'll remember I shared with you that the illustrations in the book are done with beautiful collage work, where you can even see, if I bring this up close, there's like a white cut piece of paper that is behind the words on the top. And then there's a little piece of a map that's even included here. And over here, in part of the collage, it looks like a small cutout from a book or a magazine. And you have such beautiful textures. And even on this piece, if you can see, what I believe has happened is that the illustrator, Oge, has painted on top of a piece of paper and created a face and then cut that out. And then, so it's a combination of coloring and painting and drawing and cutting and putting everything together to make this beautiful and unique illustration. Let's move forward and read the book. Oh, by the way, I could have done this first. Note to the reader, OMU is pronounced AHH-moo, is the Igbo term for queen. So it is not thank you Omu, it is thank you AHH-moo. Mr. Craig, you should have read that before. I know. Now this splash page has a beautiful city scene where you can see a variety of textures and papers. This appears to perhaps be a piece of a phone book or something. And then as we continue, we have textures, and we can see cutout books. And one of the buildings is a map. AHH-moo. Thank you, AHH-moo. Love that splash page. Ooh, there's even more we get to see. There's like a double splash page. Seems like somebody's cooking here. And some child or person has left a toy car in this window. Here's a person on the street walking. And down below is a hot dog vendor. And over here is a tall building. It is a cutout of some magazine or book. There's a tiny plant. Really love. Oh, somebody in a car down here. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, AHH-moo was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. "What a delicious stew," AHH-moo said. "Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I've ever had." Move my arm so we can see tomatoes in a can. And you see all of that beautiful flavor, the scent is traveling out of the window. See? AHH-moo in her kitchen window, and there goes the scent. With that, AHH-moo put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick, red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out of the windows and out of the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until... Knock, knock, knock. Somebody was at the door. When AHH-moo opened it, she saw a little boy. He was, in the other picture, he was in an apartment just below AHH-moo. Little boy, AHH-moo exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell. The little boy replied, what is it? Thick red stew. Stew, he sighed. That sounds yummy. I wonder what AHH-moo is going to do. I'll tell you what AHH-moo is going to do. AHH-moo thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded. And so AHH-moo spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot. I believe perhaps the stew is made out of a piece of fabric. That can also be used in collage work. And AHH-moo's oven mitt, or oven heating, her, I'm going to call it an oven mitt, but it's not a mitt, is made out of a map. So AHH-moo spoons out some thick red stew from the big pot. Thank you, AHH-moo, said the little boy, and went on his way. And with that, AHH-moo closed the door and went back to her book. Do you notice the little boy's bowl of stew? All of that delicious aroma, and on the page is written the words in the aroma. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out of the window, out of the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until somebody was at the door. When AHH-moo opened the door, she saw a police officer. Miss Police Officer, AHH-moo exclaimed, what brings you to my home? Well, I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell, Miss Police Officer replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ah, stew, she said, and her mouth watered. Sounds mighty tasty. You see that? Wafting, wafting, wafting. That means it's traveling. See, it's wafting, 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 ever wafting. AHH-moo thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. Would you like some? And the police officer nodded. Once again, AHH-moo spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, AHH-moo, the officer said, and went on her way. Well, as you can tell, the officer sent, and now we have all of that delicious fragrance coming down near the hot dog vendor and a construction worker. And so, for the second time, AHH-moo closed the door. Let me move my arm so we can see the entire book. I'm going to move around a little bit. There's so much to see here. Here we go. AHH-moo closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out of the window and out of the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until... Again, someone was at AHH-moo's door. This time when she opened it, she saw a hot dog vendor. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, AHH-moo exclaimed, what brings you to my home? Well, I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell, the hot dog vendor replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Oh, stew! The vendor licked his lips. That sounds delectable. I just want us to see AHH-moo's beautiful purple chair and her flowers on her table next to it. So Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big red pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Amu," the hot dog vendor said, and he went on his way. See that beautiful pattern on his shirt? Such a beautiful pattern. Sarah, do you see that pattern? I'm sure you do. Oh, this is a wonderfully busy page. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Wouldn't you know it, even the mayor stopped by. This may be the mayor up here. Very well could be the businessman. It's very unclear to me. And each time they knocked, Amu shared. Soon the sky darkened, the street lights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Amu sniffled. "There goes the best dinner I ever had." Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until... Who could that be? Amu wondered. When she opened the door, she saw the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. "Oh, I'm sorry, everyone," Amu sighed. "My thick red stew is all gone. I have none left to share." The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. "Don't worry, Amu. We're not here to ask. We're here to give." Oh my goodness. The police officer carried a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. The little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny, tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. That dinner was the best she ever had. It says, "Thank you, Amu." And then on the back we have the splash page. It's the same as in the front, except now because here it's daylight, so things are a bit browner and brighter. And in the back they're bluer and deeper because it's night. Such beautiful, beautiful illustrations. And there's a picture of the author, Miss Mora, and her Amu. Many years ago, I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I was a volunteer in the country of Kenya, which is on the east coast of the continent of Africa. And Kenya is such a beautiful, wonderful, diverse, stunning place with beautiful people. And I remember from my time in Kenya, now Nigeria is another country where Amu is from. Nigeria is a country on the continent of Africa, as is Kenya. So much land and so many countries on that one large continent or land space. And I remember from Kenya there being a very similar thing that would happen where people from the community would come to a home and so much food would be made and shared. And there might be times where you share as much as you have. And if you're feeling hungry, maybe somewhere deep down inside you feel a little bit sad simply because you're hungry. But what would always happen is those people would return the food and the joy and the love, and the entire community came together. And this is a beautiful tale because Amu is, of course, not living in Nigeria here. She perhaps has moved to New York City or Philadelphia, perhaps Los Angeles. It seems to be a very large city. And Amu had made a thick red stew, and I bet you, I believe that thick red stew is probably a delicious Nigerian meal. And there were stews in Kenya as well. I just really love this book, and it's a way to share community, is to also share the foods that we make. I don't know if you have any special foods in your home, or special foods that your grandparents or your parents make that come from a unique culture that sometimes you share with other people who have never eaten that before. It's very beautiful, very wonderful, and I'm incredibly happy to have shared Thank You AHH-moo with you today, and to have learned to say AHH-moo and not OHH-moo. Huh? It's right there in the book. So I'll see you on Monday. I hope you have a lovely, wonderful, beautiful weekend with delicious, diverse food. And perhaps you get to share a thank you note with your AHH-moo, or mama, or papa, or auntie, or sister, or brother, or friend,